Hey everyone, my name is Maggie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Hi, I'm so glad that you are here. If you're a longtime subscriber, you might notice that I am looking very different right now. I did get my hair cut like last month. Got a little shaggy shag, which is very cute. And today I'm actually trying contacts because I'd like to incorporate those back into my appearance. So the evolution of me is continuing to change, and I actually really love it. So I hope you do too. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my lipedema surgery, basically from when we left the house to go to the hospital to when we got back from the hospital. This is probably going to be long. This was not an average experience, I would say. So there's a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns. So buckle in, grab a snack. It's going to be interesting. Right now, I'm about 4 months post-op, so a lot has happened since then, but I wasn't quite ready to make a video about my hospital experience, and I realized it's because I really wasn't done healing yet. I would say I didn't consider myself fully healed from the first surgery until like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because of some complications I had, which we'll get into in a different video. But yes, 4 months post-op, looking back on this with a different perspective, and oh my gosh, it is quite a story. If you missed it, you can check out this video to see kind of how I was feeling before surgery, kind of what my thoughts were going into it. In case you want a little precursor, I did record a video for that as well, so go check that out. I also wanted to record every single moment of this experience, and that didn't quite happen. I think I just was really optimistic, but healing from a major surgery is so hard, and recording it was not my biggest priority. So I do have some clips of before I go to the hospital, but basically once I'm in the hospital, it's either Mon or a random thing I filmed on my phone. So I'm going to insert things here and there. I hope that you will bear with me. I just want to give you the full story and some visuals so you can kind of put all the pieces together and really, really get what it was like for me to have this experience, because as I said, it was an interesting one. So the day of my surgery started really early. We had to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to the hospital at 7, and I was hoping to have my surgery around maybe like 9. I did know that I was going to be staying the night, at least one night, so I was prepared for that. I had brought stuff for overnight, like earplugs and an eye mask and everything. But it was a very early morning, and the weather was like pretty foggy, but thankfully Mon drove, and they were an angel and a trooper, and helped me get checked in because they have been through this surgery thing before with top surgery, and this was my first surgery as an adult, so I was a little nervous, but I did really trust my surgeon, so I wasn't so much nervous about the outcome as I was about the process, but it really all worked out. After I got checked in, they took me back to prep for surgery, which I didn't quite know what to expect, but they put in an IV. I had to like wipe off my whole body. They put, I think, iodine in my nose, which I was not expecting. But it took maybe like 45 minutes, and I was like pretty much ready to go. Mon came to say goodbye and say they love me and like good luck. And like they came in, and then the anesthesiologist gave me like a great cocktail of drugs. And there's a video of me on my way, and I'm like, I don't remember that. So the anesthesiologist basically said, like, if I do my job right, you will not even remember most of the surgery. So I chose to get a spinal anesthesia versus a general anesthesia. I talked about my PCP about this. I thought about it. I've never been under general anesthesia, and I'd like to avoid it for as long as possible because it can be really hard on your body. So I chose a spinal anesthesia where they like insert anesthesia into your spine, kind of like an epidural where I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. So all I remember is getting wheeled into the operating room, like getting myself from the bed to the table very clumsily. And then they gave me a pillow to hold. I had to like swing my legs over the side of the table and hold a pillow and lean over. And that's the last thing I remember before I woke up in the recovery room. So that anesthesiologist, amazing. So when I woke up in the recovery room, I wasn't in a lot of pain. I had a little bit of uncomfortable feelings in my ankle. It kind of felt like the wraps that I was wrapped in were a little bit too tight. Just to like give you a visual, after surgery, they put me in a compression garment. They cut holes in that compression garment to put in absorbent pads for all the fluid that's going to be coming out of me. And then on top of that, they have these Velcro wraps for even more compression. So it really felt like my Velcro wrap on my right foot ankle was like a little too tight. And this kind of is a trend that goes on that I actually haven't even resolved the issue from that. But again, future video, we're focusing on the surgery. So I'm all wrapped up. My surgeon has done liposuction on the full front of my body from the hips down. I have all these little incisions and they're all left open. They were not closed, just to let them drain, to let that fluid not build up in my body basically. And I was going to drain for like 24 to 36 hours is what I was told. So this was all stuff I was prepared for. They wheeled me into my room, which I actually don't remember that journey other than like how weird it is to be wheeled around in a hospital and everyone's just like looking at you. I didn't expect that feeling or experience. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I remember thinking it was weird. But I got to my room. They got me set up. Mon came back to see me. I was so happy to see them. And they showed me a video that Dr. Volshteyn had sent to them, which I will insert here if I can. I don't know how graphic I can be on YouTube, but I'll insert it here.
So I just wanted to show you the leg, and you can compare it to the picture before. Look at the kneecap. She has not seen her kneecap for a few years. There's another kneecap right here, and as the swelling goes down, it's going to be only better. So we just removed 14.4 liters from both legs in one surgery, which is approximately 32.4 pounds. Obviously, it doesn't translate one-to-one, but it's to demonstrate that's a very significant volume. So we're done with the surgery. She's doing great. You see that there's not much bleeding anymore. The lumpy bumpies are gonna be kind of squared away. The ankles are looking great. The knees now finally showing up. And you can see the thickness of the skin. You see how thin the skin is? Here, it's also the same way. You see this little lumpy bumpies, they usually wear off.
So that was a really crazy video to see so soon after I was in the operating room. It's also weird to see a video of yourself unconscious. But anyway, so I was just like getting settled in my room, kind of getting into this new routine with the leggings and the compression and everything. And basically every so often, pretty frequently, the first like 12 hours after surgery, nurses had to come in and change these pads so that it would, obviously keep soaking up, but they also didn't want those pads to like harden with any fluid because that can affect how your skin heals and like can make it not look so nice. So basically the nurses had a hard job. They usually came in pairs because one did one leg and one did the other. They had to unwrap all the Velcro wraps, which are like heavy duty wraps, take out all of the pads, insert new pads. And these were small slits and they had to like push the pad in and then in the other way and make sure it was flat so that there was no like dents in my body. And it was really intense. It was like a physical workout. It probably took 30 minutes for them to do this. All the while I'm like, at first I couldn't feel it, but then I could more feel it. And I was like, I don't like this. And Mon knew that they were like gonna have to do that after surgery, but I don't think they quite understood the volume of liquid that would be happening. And I definitely leaked all over the bed. They had to change my sheets at least once. I had to change my gown at least once just because this fluid is just leaking out so constantly. It was also really hot on this floor of the hospital. The other floors were not as hot. This is one of the odd things that happened during my stay. It was very hot on the floor and Mon is not great with heat. So they were really struggling and they wore a crew neck with nothing under it. So they couldn't even take it off. So they were like, whew, really hot. And, I was okay. I mean, I'm mostly like naked, so I was okay, but everyone was telling me it was pretty warm. And like, this is late November, so people are like in winter clothes. But, speaking of family visiting, I did ask my mom and my Aunt Linda to come down and be with me during the first day after surgery. So they came down that morning and they checked into a hotel. And once they could, they came to see me. And I was really glad to see them. They are the two people in my life that were kind of the most nurturing as I was growing up. Like, my mom took care of me, but I remember my Aunt Linda taking care of me when my mom was at work. I was sick. So it was really, really relieving to have people there who knew me and that I knew were going to take care of me. I'm really blessed that I have people, not one, but two people in my life to have that feeling for. But when I first booked surgery, I was like, I don't want my mom there. It's going to stress me out. And as I got closer to the surgery, I was like, actually, I want my mom there because I'm probably going to be real vulnerable. And little Maggie basically. And I was really grateful that they were there. So they came in, said hi, just kind of kept me company so Mom could go back to the hotel, shower, get something to eat. Because we're vegan, so the hospital did not have a lot of food for us. Overall, I'm glad that my mom and my aunt came. My mom calls me Maggie the Magnet because things just happen to me. Weird things, random things, things that don't happen in most cases. I'm always like the exception. So my aunt and my mom were hanging out with me. My aunt ordered me dinner, called down to like the cafeteria or whatever. And they left at around like 6:30 because visiting hours ended at 7. So, you know, they left. I waited for my food. I devoured my food. I was so hungry. I ordered so many random things. And I was kind of nervous again because being vegan, hospital food, but they had this actually great tofu dish. I was so grateful because protein is a really important part of your diet when you are recovering from surgery. So I inhaled that. I like just ate because at this point it's like 7:30 and I hadn't eaten since, you know, dinner time the night before. So hungry. And then around 8 p.m., all of the lights in my room went out. And I was like, maybe it's like summer camp where like 8 o'clock is lights out and they're like, go to sleep patients. Like that was where my mind was. I was taking, you know, some intense painkillers, but like I was still lucid. And I was like, maybe it's like camp. It's like 8 o'clock lights out. And I like looked in the hallway and I could see there was like an emergency light on in the hallway. And I was like, what's that about? So I didn't have a roommate at the time, so I had to wait for a nurse to come in and ask her like, hey, like what's going on? And she's like, oh, the power's out. And I'm like, well, does this happen often? And she was like, no. It's like, okay. So the only like electrical plug that was working was behind my bed. And I had asked her to plug in my phone. So she plugged in my phone to charge. But that meant that I couldn't move my bed. So she left and I didn't realize that I could not move my bed because didn't have any electricity. And I also couldn't call for a nurse. Like, so that was not great. I also didn't know where the nurse call button was. No one showed me that. It was my first time in the hospital. So I just like didn't quite know where it was. People kept saying like, press the red button. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know where that red button is, ma'am. So I waited for another nurse to come in and had her switch the thing so that my bed was functional. And then she left. And it was at this point where it was like getting pretty late. The pain was really starting to get to me. I'm not able to like lean over and adjust any of my own wraps. That like, again, pain in my right ankle was really, really bothering me. And I didn't know where the red button was. So I just started like yelling like nurse into the hallway. Like it's fucking 1920. And she was doing her medicine rounds, but like everything obviously is harder because there's no power. It was wild. So finally a nurse comes in, they change my bandages. They literally have to use a headlamp because there is like no light in my room. My room is just dark. And like they have headlamps to change my wraps. And it was like, is this really happening? And I found out that the power is not going to come back on until 4 a.m. So I was plunged into darkness until 4 a.m. And I didn't know where my nurse call button was. So I filmed this really sad video. I'm just, you know, in bed, texting Mom, telling them what's going on. They're at the hotel and they're like, what do you mean? What's like, how's this happening? You know, they were so concerned and so like, just like, I don't say angry, but like, what the fuck, you know, like, what the fuck? And then it's not like they could come and visit me, you know? So that was really rough. I filmed this really sad clip, which I'll enter here.
So you can't really see me, but I just wanted to update you that the power is off in the hospital. And I had my nurse and an assistant come in with a flashlight and a headlamp to change my dressings and rewrap me. And I was feeling really bad because one ankle, the garment was bunched and it was really painful. And I was given medicine and told they'd come back, and they didn't come back for an hour. And And I was crying and I was calling out for nurses and no one came. And it was really sad. But I'm okay now. But that was really sad and I didn't like it.
It just felt so helpless. I felt so helpless and abandoned and vulnerable and in pain. And I have not had that feeling much in my life, thankfully. But it was a really hard feeling. So eventually the nurse came in, gave me my medicine, rewrapped me, and I slept, on and off for the night. The power did come back on at 4 a.m. Thank God. Till this point, I didn't have a roommate. I was in like a double room, but I was the only one in that room. So the second day after the entire power outage fiasco, this old woman becomes my roommate. And this woman, when you're in a hospital room with someone, the only thing between you is curtains. So not a lot of privacy between you and the other patient in the room. And I'm just like sitting there kind of doing my thing, waiting for, mom and my mom and my aunt to come by. And this poor woman, tell me why that I had to get the roommate of the old lady with the prolapsed rectum. Tell me why. I felt so bad, but also like, why? And she was closest to the door, so anytime I had to go to the bathroom, I had to walk like right by her. Like her curtain was not closed over there. Like I like walked by her every time. So anyway, she was not having a great time. She wanted to have surgery now. And the doctor was like, you have to drink all this stuff. We're going to do a colonoscopy, whatever, tomorrow. Prolapsed rectum granny was my roommate for the remainder of my stay. That's just like another random hilarious thing that happened. This poor lady. Another thing I didn't mention is that after my surgery was complete, while I was still unconscious, they did insert a catheter into my bladder. And this is because they put a lot of fluid into my body when they did the liposuction, and that fluid is coming out in two ways. The first way is through the incisions, holes that the doctor left open. The second is my body processing it. So if I didn't have a catheter, I would be up peeing so much. And at that point in like recovery, I really shouldn't be getting out of bed. So this next day, they were like, okay, we're going to take your catheter out this morning. And I was like, okay, great. Basically, I had to like pee and I had to be able to like walk around without fainting in order to leave this day and not stay another night. So they removed the catheter, which was not the best feeling. It was a little painful, really weird. And I just like felt a little like strange down there. And I had the best nurse though this day. Her name is Nurse Jenny. She was fantastic. And she actually messaged me on Instagram later and she's just so sweet. She can't wait for me to come back. I guess a lot of people on that floor are like grumpy old people. So to have a really cool, hot young person and their hot partner there was exciting. So she did message me on Instagram later, which I thought was so cute. And she was great. And I've actually heard from other people that have had her as well that she's great. And people have said that they were looking forward to having her as a nurse because of what I said about her. So that's just like, I don't know, really cute. So to set the scene, it is later in the morning, maybe really early afternoon. My mom and my aunt had already come to see me and they brought me a coffee and a cookie. So sweet of them. And they left kind of early in the day. And then Mon came later. And so it was like me, Mon, prolapsed rectum lady, and then like 2 or 3 nurses. And I had my catheter taken out. And I was like, okay, I think I have to pee. So this was my first time getting out of bed and I was not ready for the pain, not the pain I was expecting. So one of the things that can happen during the surgery is like muscle cramping. And when I took that first step, I almost collapsed because my right calf muscle was so sore. It was so tight. I couldn't even like put like my whole weight down on my foot. It was just so, it felt like it was scrunched up real tight and it was really, really painful. So they got me a little walker. So I used my walker very slowly, went across the floor in my grippy socks, past prolapsed rectum lady, and went to the bathroom and tried to pee. I could not pee. It was like my brain and my urethra were no longer connected. Like, I think I just really like couldn't relax, partly because of whatever slight trauma my urethra had just been through, but also just I think the experience, it was not really easy for me to relax. So I tried to pee and I couldn't pee, but as I am sitting on the toilet, I start feeling real weird. So me on the toilet, outside the door, Mon, nurse, prolapse rectum. And I'm like, I just like, I just know to narrate what's happening to me so people like can help me. And I was just like, I just got really sweaty and my hearing is funny. And then Nurse Jenny was like, okay, you're gonna faint. And I was like, I don't like the whole time I was like, I'm not gonna faint. I'm not gonna faint. I want to go home. I'm not gonna faint. I was really determined not to faint. So they got me ice packs, they got me water to sip on, and I stayed conscious. Thank God. Made it back to the bed, but I didn't pee. So a little bit later, I still couldn't pee. And the rule is that like if you have a certain amount of fluid in your bladder and you can't pee, they have to insert another catheter. And she did like an ultrasound on my bladder and it was way past the threshold. So this was another one of the really difficult parts of my stay, is that they tried to put a catheter in me while I was awake, and probably one of the most painful things I've experienced, and also just one of like the most violating, not on their part. It was consent. Like there was consent, but it was like to have so much pain in that area. I mean, involuntarily started like screaming, squealing, crying, and Mon was in the hallway at this point. And they like rushed in. They were like, stop. Like, and they stopped. And I was like, okay. I mean, crying. I'm like sobbing. And I was just like, I'm not mad at you, like to my nurse. And that was really bad. So I was like, okay, I am determined to pee. So we took a lap around the nurse's station bathroom area with my walker because it was still really difficult and painful. And I tried to pee and it was taking me a long time, but eventually I was able to pee because I mean, they were trying every trick. They turned the sink on, they, trying to do all the things. And the only thing that worked was I started reading the signs on the back of the bathroom door. And for whatever reason, reading that sign relaxed me enough to pee. And I was like, I peed. I was like, I did it. And the nurses were like, oh my God. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, definitely a new experience for me. 0 out of 10 for inserting a catheter. Do not recommend. Never one again. I'm going to have it again when I have my next surgery. But again, I will only feel the removal, not the insertion. Bad. So at that point, I had like checked off all the things. I peed, I can walk, I haven't passed out, and I was like, okay, I think I'm like ready to go home. So they started the process of discharging, which takes a long time. I did not realize how long it took, but like a lot of people have to check off on that. So I feel like I told people I was ready to go around like 4, and we did not get out there until like 7:30. So they wheeled me out to the front. Mon brought the car around. At this point, it's dark and it's raining. We had like gone through a drought, and this was the first day it had rained in like over 30 days. It was, of course, the day that I'm going home from surgery is the day that it starts raining at night. So I was kind of in and out in the backseat to keep my legs elevated. Mon, such a trooper. Who likes to drive in the rain at night? No one. But they did it. It was all good. They got me home, got me out of the car, and I went up to the guest room because at the time the guest room bed was lower than our bed in our bedroom, and that's where they had recovered after top surgery. So before surgery, I had set that whole room up with like my leg pillow, the wedge pillow. I put like puppy pads and like waterproof bed things down, and so it was like, yeah, like 9 o'clock. Like it was pretty late. And they got me settled in. I feel like at some point we ate food, but I honestly can't even remember if I ate anything before I went to bed. And so they put me to bed. And that night was kind of rough because it was like a baby. And I kind of felt the same way when I helped them through top surgery. It's like having a newborn, because they had to get up every few hours to change the pads in my legs. And, it was a lot harder when it was just one person. I believe they did it right before I went to bed, and it was like a workout. Like they were like sweating, and I was like, I'm like, thank you so much for doing this. I did not think it was going to be this hard, but they took great care of me. They were very good about getting my medicine on time, getting my dressings changed, like really sticking to the list that my surgeon had given us. And I'm really grateful for that because when I saw my surgeon, he was like A+ healing. So that was my surgery experience. Looking back on it now, a lot of odd things happened, but I was in really good hands, thankfully. And I'm not necessarily looking forward to my second surgery, but I know at least that I will be taken care of in the right way. So I'm going to stop things here. My next video will be probably the first week or two after surgery, and then another video kind of 4 months post-op, whatever, of any complications that I had, answering any questions you have, and things like that. So if you like this video, please let me know. Leave a comment if you have any questions or if you just want to chat. I am making these videos because people who posted their lipedema surgery journeys was so helpful for me while I was in the process of getting to this point. And I want to add to that library of just knowledge and experience for other people who are going through the same thing. So share this if you want. I'm glad that you watched it. I love and appreciate you so, so much. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to have a little bit more of me because I don't post on YouTube quite regularly, but like maybe that'll change. 2025 is a new year. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for all of the support that I've gotten from my friends, my family, my online community. It's been really wonderful and overwhelming and great. So thanks for watching. Love you all, and I will see you next time. Bye.